With the growth in African business, there comes a need to improve the training of executives in the workplace. Now, business schools are capitalizing on this growth by creating new programs and in some cases brushing up on older formats. One of these is Henley Business School, and with me in studio now to discuss business training and the latest theories is the Dean, Professor John Foster-Pedley. Well, thank you so much for coming in today. Let's start off with a bit of Henley, because there are lots of business schools in South Africa, lots of competition. What's your competitive edge?
Well, we obviously have competitive edges, which are to do with our triple international accreditation, which is really important. But rather than talking about competition, which seems to preoccupy far too many business schools, I like to talk about contribution and collaboration. Because we are a small pool of business schools really in South Africa, and we have a massive job to help transform the country and lift it and develop the economy, and we have a critical part in that. And we really need to work together more than we do. So while we have competitive edges, I'd like to talk about our collaborative edge more than anything else.
Okay, well, what collaboration should there be?
Well, I think we work through the South African Business School Association to help the business schools work together. But, I mean, typically in exams we have a bell curve, and bell curves means that A students are the ones who get the credits, and the B students never get in there because they know that only 16% or whatever it is will get A. And so why can't we have courses that get many people, able to get A grades or whatever? And we can do that by inspired teaching, by good education design, by increasing people's confidence, and by increasing collaborative learning. And at executive level, where we're talking now, we're not looking at undergrad or school level competitive. We're talking about learning together, thinking well together, and coming up with solutions and that will develop the economy. And that's never a solo act. So why don't we spend more time acting as mature adults in the classrooms, of course we are those things, and develop education models that help people think well together and come up with good ideas to progress the economy and build businesses.
How do you choose students into your MBA program? Is there certain criteria, or is just anybody who pays $185,000?
No, it's not everybody who pays, and we do have ways of paying that. In fact, people often worry about the price of MBAs, and with tongue-in-cheek I say it's less than a second-hand Mercedes, and that's not going to give you skills all your life. So we choose them very carefully, but interestingly enough, what you need is an undergraduate degree, an honours degree, or a postgrad diploma, and 3 years of management experience, or if you've got a first degree, 5 years of management experience. Or in some cases where people don't have degrees and you've got really significant experience in business, 10 years or more, we'll take those people on too, and they're often some of the best students. But how I choose people really is much more about motivation. We're not particularly interested in people who just want to have the badge of an MBA for their career. We're looking at people who want to build sets of skills that will help them build businesses. So we're looking at lifelong growth. Because those are people we need in South Africa.
Yeah. Can you debunk the theory, John, that you get an MBA, you get your certificate, but you lose your spouse in the process?
It's a really good question. I mean, MBAs have traditionally been known as the marriage breakup academies, and I think there's some truth in that. MBAs, I know one business school somewhere, unnamed, that tell students to come on the first day with a picture of their wife or partner and children and look at it and put that in your back pocket for a year. Well, we don't go with that. Completely unethical. MBAs should not create the level of stress that separate families and damage children. We don't want to create leaders that do that, for heaven's sake. So what we're trying to do now is do what we call a relationship positive or family friendly MBA, where we include the spouses and partners in the process. We have special sessions for them. We give a massive amount of information about the highs and lows of an MBA. We give them skills like positive parenting or advanced project management. We give those things free or nearly so throughout the 2 years. We're launching that this year. And we try and create a community among those people to create a support network. This is all about the collaborative approach to learning.
John, how have teaching methods changed over the years? I've been speaking to Harvard Business School professors. They've been out recently, and it seems that they do a lot less lecturing nowadays and much more case study work.
Well, see, the early days of Harvard were inspirational, with the case study work that was done by Christensen and the other people there. That was the basis of learning. It was learning in real situations, and you would grapple. It wasn't about knowing facts. It was about sense making, trying to work out what the drivers of a problem were, as any good manager should. Over time, what happens is it kind of debunks into kind of subject areas, and you just teach massive amounts of content. You're sitting there waiting for the guru to serve you the pearls of wisdom. And as mature adults, we don't think like that. We have to think together. We have to grapple and argue. And so how teaching methods have evolved, have gone from the case method to a sort of case method light, I would say, over the years, and to heavy content teaching, and now it's much more integrated, practical. We're looking for people with the discipline to practice and develop skills, because a lot of business work and managerial leadership work is skills-based. You know, to be a really good director has a lot of skills, and you don't acquire skills from nowhere, you have to practice them. So we teach our students to have the discipline to practice those, and we support them in a process. So it's a much more supportive environment now.
One of the aspects of a good leader is innovation, and John Chambers from Cisco always talks about the importance of innovation. How do you teach innovation?
It's a very interesting thing. See, I would argue, like Picasso says, we are all born artists, but we just lose it as we grow up and get educated. So we have innovation and creativity within us. And I think that the education system drives that out, and there's a lot of research on this. I think it's about recovering innovation. And innovation is a lot about confidence. If you're paralyzed by fear about having the right or wrong answer, you'll never make the mistakes that are necessary to innovate. And I'm not saying those mistakes need to be big. Good innovation environment, you make mistakes, but you catch them really early. You know, I used to be a pilot, and funnily enough, pilots make lots of mistakes. You know, you don't want to hear that. I
don't want to hear that.
But they catch them so early they never become big mistakes. And that's the difference. You get crashes like Société Générale and what recently happened in London with the banks there. And these are major crashes that people had insight into long before they happened, but they didn't respond to them. So a lot about innovation is getting people to experiment and seeing what's going wrong and then learning to adapt, not just to program.
Do you think, John, that we've come through, well, we're still in the aftermath of the global financial crisis, where a lot of people are questioning the way that capitalism has worked in the past, the social and environmental issues. Has teaching of that changed? Does teaching of being a responsible leader need to change?
It absolutely has to, and is, slowly. I mean, you just look at what the role of a university is. I mean, it's not to just serve knowledge or create badges of qualifications. I believe a university is there to serve the context in which it sits, in this case South Africa, and so are business schools. We're there to serve business by producing the skills that will build businesses, that build a country. So as we start teaching people, people need to become socially aware. The history of South Africa is such that we inherited a massive backlog of skills, underdeveloped population who are excluded from those. We have to aggressively change that. Now, you can't blame government or point the finger at anyone else. You have to, as a business person or education institution, get on board that bus, and you have to educate people. You have to do programs that raise people up in a far more aggressive and imaginative way than you might have to do in other economies. But unless we do that, we're not going to develop. And there's no way around this. We have to face up to it and deliver to that and start working together to build the sort of South Africa that we need and want to live in.
On that positive note, thank you so much for coming in today, John.
Thank you, Lou.
That was John Foster-Pedley, the Dean Professor at Henley Business School.